Because I'm still waiting for my piece of stainless steel, this morning I decided to make a smaller bell out of brass, total brass, and I've just made this little spring jig up here to try and get a bit of pressure on each side of the bell to hold the hanger on and keep the two halves nice and square, which is, it's not easy. Before I used this little G clamp, and I think as that expanded due to the heat, that's what was letting go of the bell. So this has got a little bit of spring in it, so I'm hoping when it heats up it won't do the same thing. So I'm going to attempt now to silver solder this. Hopefully it'll go okay. It's all trial and error. On the copper bell, I put the flux actually on the joint and pushed it together, but by the time you get it into this position, or a position to solder, it's gone everywhere anyway. So what I'm going to do this time is just liberally apply the flux, and if the joints are close enough, then the silver solder should just run round the joint and not all over the bell. There will be some on the bell, that's unavoidable I think, but it should just stay under the joints. I'm going to try and get a bit on that joint first, get a bit, hold it in position, and then perhaps put a piece on there, because the more you heat that up, the more that solder on that part will release, and vice versa. So this is all trial and error for me. I'm not really sure how it's going to work, and it's difficult to keep the two halves nice and square. This little blowtorch is a creme caramel, or a chef's little blowtorch, just for heating desserts and getting that glaze on sugar. You know, you've got to give this a very even heat all over. Silver's now just started to melt under the heat of the bell. And not it's not the flame melting the solder as much as the bell melting the solder from the heat. I think that's gone right round, so I'm going to stop there. It's going to take a bit of cleaning up, and this little holder here, the spring clip, it's just starting to get warm here now. That's what I was worrying about, heat transfer, but I was hoping because it was thin it would dissipate a bit before it got to my fingers. So it's just warm there, and quite hot there, so just about done it. And it looks like the silver solder has wicked its way right round. Maybe there's a spot there. I'm not going to worry too much or try and do that again. I think that's probably got it. As a second attempt, that would probably be okay. Maybe the eyelets shifted slightly, not quite centre, which is a shame, but yeah, we'll see how that cleans up. Here I've got vinegar and salt in that solution, which is called pickling, and this should clean the bell up fairly well. So I'll let it cool off just a bit, leave that in there. But we'll have a bit of cleaning up to do on this brass, I'm sure, but I guess the more you do it, the more you get used to technique and less silver solder goes over the barrel. But I shall clean that off as best as I can. This is getting rid of all the flux and crud, bringing the barrel back to its just brass state, which would be quite off colour. And then I'm going to use some wire, which is here, and then take it into my garage and get it on the buffing wheel and see what sort of state I can get it back to. Here's the barrel now out of the pickling juice, and I can see the bottom half had shifted slightly over, so it's not as square on there as I'd like. That's a bit of a shame. I don't want to. I could heat it up and just shift it, but it'll only cause a disaster, I'm sure. What I'm going to do is just emery that down, and the same over there, and try and make it as round as I can. But that's okay for a second attempt, I think, out of brass. I've still got to cut the slot in to let the sound out, and then put a couple of drill holes at the end of the slot to stop it splitting any further. And I'm sure that when you cut these, the further you cut, I reckon it will be a different tone. So I'll probably cut just past where I soldered it and then put a drill hole there, so I'm going to have quite a wide opening. But I don't think that's too bad for the second attempt out of brass. The slug inside is moving, there's no sound, but as soon as I cut that sound hole, I'm sure we're going to get a sound out of it. Well, I've got to be careful because this does tend to throw things out your hands, this buffer. It's not very fast, but it does work. I've decided to give it a polish before I cut, to save any polish going on the inside. So this is a bit of a coarse polish at the moment. Change the wheel over, put a fine one on there now. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to hold this to cut the slot. I just set it up in a vise, but it was wobbling around like that, so I think the best thing for me to do is do it this way. I'm going to cut partly down, then drill 2 stop holes rather than do the stop holes after, because in the copper one, as I drilled, it twisted the front of the barrel. That makes sense. As you can hear there, that is just a small cut, and we're starting to get a ring. I'm going to take that cut right down, but I'd like to drill 2 holes in this, one there and one on the other side, before I take that slot down. I'm not sure how that is going to be. It's probably going to be quite difficult, I'm not sure. In fact, second thoughts, I'm going to take it down and I'm going to see if I can get a small file in there and wind it and cut a hole rather than drill. So I've changed my mind, I'll carry on. It's a bit quieter than I thought it would be. I'm not very happy with my cut, so on the next one I'm going to have to be more careful. But there it is, it is a bell. I'm just going to try now to square up that slot. Where I had 2 attempts at it, just made a little bit of a step in it, which is a shame. So on the next one I do, I'll be thinking about that and won't do that again. But that's how we learn, by trial and error. So this is only my second one. The first one was copper, bit rough, but this one all brass, and it's a little bit better. So each time we do one, we improve, and that's how life works. But that's not too bad, I'm quite pleased with that. As soon as my stainless steel arrives, I know I said in the beginning of the video I was going to do stainless and brass, but because I didn't have my stainless, I couldn't wait until the brass one. The doming doesn't take long, making that part. It's all this after stuff, the cleaning, but it makes me think, when you can buy these bowls for £6 on eBay, how they make money of them I don't know. Mass produced, I suppose, but if someone's doing handmade ones and they're selling these on eBay for under a tenner, you've done very well buying one of them. Well, there we are, bowl number 2, that's finished now. Quite small,